Hello, I am Courtney Brown, Director of the Farsight Institute. This is arguably the most important announcement that I have ever had the opportunity to make, and it may be the most important announcement that anyone has ever made. Please bear with me as I explain. There are three major reasons, and I will leave the most important reason for last. We at the Farsight Institute are releasing the results of a major new project that will allow for fundamental changes in human thinking. First, it is now possible to completely settle the public confusion over whether or not the phenomenon known as remote viewing actually exists. Something has changed, and you need to see it with your own eyes. Second, possibly the most mysterious puzzle in human history has been resolved. We now know exactly how the Great Pyramids of Giza were constructed, and nearly everything you were ever taught in school about this is wrong. What actually happened is more amazing than you might possibly imagine, and it has potentially great implications to what is happening today on our planet. But there is something even more important about this announcement. This announcement is about disclosure. Disclosure of some things that have been hidden from most people on this planet for a great many years. Disclosure is finally now. Disclosure has never been about a president or prime minister giving a speech that reveals some amazing secret. They never do that. Governmental officials, as well as industrial and military elites, withhold information. They keep secrets. That is what they do. Their authority is based on a widespread belief that elites should be the official sources of information. As long as there are secrets, their authority is maintained. Disclosure dilutes their authority. So real disclosure has nothing to do with authorities or elites, since they don't do that. Disclosure is about you being shown absolute and totally convincing information so that you are not in doubt about something. Disclosure is always about what you know, not about what the authorities or elites tell you. So now, for the first time, we can settle once and for all some major issues about remote viewing, about how the pyramids were built, about extraterrestrial involvement with human culture in the ancient past, and about the true non-physical and non-local nature of human consciousness. Don't ask for someone else to tell you what you are permitted to believe. Look at what I am about to show you for yourself. That is disclosure. You can now make up your own mind and leave the authorities and elites to decide when they want to acknowledge what everyone else already recognizes as obvious. Something they will do only once most other people have moved on and basically think they are ridiculous. This announcement marks the beginning of a year-long campaign of disclosure, and that is truly the most important element of this announcement. This is the year that we, each of us, reach out and change what most people accept as real. The world will change when the ideas that we know change. We can call this year Farsight Planet 2014. To make this campaign work, we need your help. The world will not change for the better because someone else does it for you. That is not how it works. Being passive leads to no change. At the end of this video, I will outline a short list of things we need you to do if you are able and want to help. As enough people do these things, the world will change in front of our very eyes. Now, let's begin with the issue of remote viewing. Remote viewing is a mental procedure that was developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. The Farsight Institute is the leading civilian scientific hub where full public projects are conducted using remote viewing methodologies that were developed by the U.S. military or procedures that are derivative of those methodologies. You will hear more about that later in this video. The remote viewers who work on our projects are among the very best on the planet currently, and they have extensive and publicly documented track records. But what is different now is that some of these remote viewers have trained to conduct their remote viewing sessions live on video in a theatrically interesting manner. In the past, remote viewers used pen and paper to describe places, events, and people. Now, remote viewing is always done under conditions known as working blind, which means that the remote viewers are not told anything about what they are supposed to perceive when they do their work. The pen and paper approach is the method that dominated in the old military days. And while it still has value, it is not particularly persuasive in a modern multimedia era to people who know little about the remote viewing methodologies when they try to match handwritten words and what sometimes look like doodles on paper to actual places, events, and people being described. A new way of remote viewing was needed. Now, live on video, working on boards while standing and doing everything in an engaging manner is the new standard for high-end remote viewing. In this new project that we are now releasing, there is a spellbinding 1 hour and 43-minute documentary video containing lengthy video recordings of live remote viewing done by two of the planet's best remote viewers, Dick Allgire and Des Smith. We are not talking about doodles on paper, but absolutely unambiguous descriptions of places and events in the distant past, all done under squeaky clean, scientific, and totally blind conditions. For example, here is a short segment of Dick Allgire describing how the Great Pyramid of Giza was used for its originally intended purpose. Interestingly, he suggests that the finished pyramid was highly polished, even reflective, as if it had a metallic sheen to it. Remember, he was told absolutely nothing about what it was that he was supposed to perceive when he did his session. That is, he had no conscious knowledge that the pyramid was the target.
And looking at land one, what predominates, I mean, there is land there, but I see a structure, and I see a pyramid. It actually got a sharper angle than that. And I feel that it extends underground a bit. So here's the ground, and here's the and this is beautiful. This is, this top is almost shimmering, or as if energy is, the whole thing seems to radiate energy. It's not dark stone like the pyramids. It's beautiful, but it's metallic. It's not, it doesn't seem to be stone. It radiates as if it was metal. Very shiny, glistening, high-tech type of thing. It's almost a grid pattern with something up here that's bright like a capstone, like a reflective. And the land, I see some people, very small here. Land is not jumping out at me. So my first land gestalt is the energy is radio frequency, RF energy. So there's a beatific light energy, and there's also, this is emanating some type of RF. There's a very charged feeling to this. Charged, the right word? Active, alive, oral, almost an oral energy around this. So that's my land one that is dominated by this structure, which...
As you can see, there can be no question that Dick Allgire was accurately describing a pyramid, the target in this study. Do you really require a presidential announcement to know that what you just saw was real? Dick Allgire does a lot more with nearly incredible detail, which you will see when you watch the entire video. There is even a clip where he reports that an advanced extraterrestrial at the scene was able to perceive him watching her, and she was not pleased. In another example, here is a short segment of Daz Smith describing how the largest stone blocks weighing up to 80 tons each were transported and moved into place using a high-tech levitating technology during the construction process.
So it feels like, hard to describe, it feels like something coming up and around and then up again, moving up and around and being manipulated. This is definitely structures. This is definitely solid, heavy. Man-made structures. I'm after AOL blocks. These feel like they're being assisted and manipulated into place, rising, up and around, rising, as part of some grand structure. And I feel like they're being placed, being moved, positioned, placed. Some of it is manual labour, but it does feel assisted by some kind of, I want to say sound energy, but I'm not sure sound is the right word. I mean, sound is involved in this, but it's not wholly sound on its own. It's almost like a sound plus. Yeah, so they start off lower, they are moving up and around a structure and up, almost like on a platform. Assisted movement on a platform, up and around a structure into place. That's what I get at this stage.
Again, there can be no doubt that Daz Smith was accurately describing the manipulation and movement of large stone blocks during the major construction process, which indeed was the target for that session. Elsewhere, he also draws the pyramid and its surroundings perfectly. There is much more in the full video, and in my view, after you watch the entire documentary for this project, it is absolutely impossible for any reasonable person to claim that remote viewing is not real. These are not doodles on paper about which people can argue. In many ways, the quality of the remote viewing data obtained by Dick Allgire and Daz Smith is equal to that which would have been obtained if they were physically present at the time when the pyramids were being constructed and saw it with their own eyes. It is that good. This does not mean that we know everything there is to know about remote viewing. Ask physicists if they know everything there is to know about, say, quantum mechanics. There are always new things to learn in all science fields. For example, we are still trying to understand the best ways to perceive future events. Our research indicates that there are multiple futures for every point of the now, and thus there is no single future. But using remote viewing to perceive the past is different. We know exactly which past we want to perceive, which in this case is the one that produced those large pyramids in Giza, Egypt. So this project is the perfect example of using remote viewing to explore historical issues. Now, let's move to the topic of the pyramid itself. From this project, we now know that the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed using a combination of high technology that appears to be of extraterrestrial origin and low-tech slave labor ostensibly led by a human elite. The human elite themselves were apparently influenced or controlled by extraterrestrials, and the scope of the extraterrestrial influence should not be minimized, since the advanced technology used would have been obvious to everyone. The project was apparently worldwide in design, and it was essentially run in a manner analogous to how a prison would be run. In such settings, prisoners are often given back-breaking work, smashing rocks, for instance. The work itself is pointless in the sense that nothing truly productive comes out of the rock-smashing experience. The prisoners are exhausted, mentally and physically drained, and incapable of staging a revolt or even planning one. But the Giza Pyramid projects had another element. They involved the development of a religion that held the attention of the masses. In essence, this construction project involved the use of extraordinary resources to build huge structures that apparently had absolutely no practical purpose, and all this combined with great suffering. They are a mystery, and that was their only purpose. The construction of the pyramids seems to have been equivalent to prison do work, as pointless as it was consuming. Some may call this brainwashing at its best. Finally, if that is not enough, apparently another group of extraterrestrials arrived after most of the pyramids were finished, and they disrupted the entire slave-based setup, evidently chasing the first group of extraterrestrials into hiding. Our modern society is a result of this change, and you will note that our architecture looks much different now. And about the first group of extraterrestrials who were originally involved in the construction of the pyramids, well, quite honestly, we don't know what they are doing now. I can only guess that they had reasons for what they were originally doing, and they have moved on to the so-called Plan B, whatever that may be. Well, of course, lots of questions remain, and there are many implications that can be potentially drawn from the results of this study, even if the study does not address these implications directly. Minimally, this new study should resolve nearly everyone's confusion about whether remote viewing is actually real. Second, this study fills a huge gap in our human history that has up until now been filled with patently ridiculous ideas about humans cutting up those huge rocks and building those pyramids all by themselves with crude tools, manual labor, camels, and wooden or reed boats. The results in this study fit what we see on the ground. The patently ridiculous ideas simply do not. All of our work for this project is contained in the video release for this project and in the scans of the original pen and paper remote viewing sessions that can be found freely on the website for the Farsight Institute. If you encounter people who say the entire thing is wrong, ask them if they have watched the entire video from start to finish that contains the video sessions of the remote viewers describing these events and places. If they say they watched it carefully and were still unconvinced, in my opinion, they are seriously in denial. All I ask is that you watch the entire video yourself, from start to finish, every minute. Nothing is ambiguous any longer. Do not allow others to do your thinking for you. Now, what follows is the first segment of the documentary, a segment that contains an overview of the complete project. The entire video is available now, either as a video on demand or as a DVD. Watch it. Look at the data yourself. Make up your own mind. It is time to set the record straight, to introduce new ideas on this planet, and to change the world for the better. After the completion of this short segment, I will tell you a bit more about this year, Farsight Planet 2014, and tell you more about what you can do to help change this world for the better. The Great Pyramid of Giza, sometimes called the Pyramid of Khufu or the Cheops Pyramid, is truly one of the greatest mysteries on Earth. It is huge, and it is built with gigantic stone blocks that seem nearly impossible to cut, transport, and assemble even today on such a massive scale as must have occurred long ago when this pyramid was originally constructed. Legends as to the origin of this and similar pyramids have grown, and some of these legends are now called history. But until now, no one on Earth really knew how these big structures were assembled at a time when tools were rudimentary. Camels and reed boats were the primary forms of transportation, and manual labor was the only means available to construct anything. In short, the legends, all of the legends, were built on total speculation. Authorities often connect all sorts of archaeological dots to weave a tale of who did what, where, and how, but quite honestly, they really do not know what happened back then. All the authorities have are ruins, and archaeological clues, however meticulously dug up, and from these they connect the dots that they select in a manner similar to how people see constellations by looking up at the sky and select stars that appear to outline all sorts of things, from the Big Dipper to Orion, the supernatural hunter. Depending on which dots or stars you select, you get different outlines and thus different legends. But the only thing that will resolve the mystery of the Great Pyramid of Giza is one or more eyewitnesses, something that, believe it or not, is entirely possible today. We can finally put the legends aside, at least for a moment, and take a look for ourselves. If you follow me through this presentation, I will show you data that will turn your world upside down. Data that were collected under impeccable scientific conditions and which, in theory, can be replicated, albeit with suitable training, care, and effort. This is cutting-edge science at its best. And what makes this even more fun is that many mainstream scientists are sitting this one out on the sidelines, caught in the trap of their own beliefs, just as many argued back in the old days that it was impossible to construct a machine that could fly, even long after the Wright brothers were flying their own inventions around quite regularly. This is as good as it gets. Let me briefly summarize just some of the key points of what I am about to show you. First, the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed using a combination of manual labor and high technology. The largest stone blocks that were used in the construction were floated about 18 inches over the ground using advanced technology while manual workers guided them into place. Second, the mining of the largest stone blocks was done using advanced energy-based cutting technology that literally melted the sides of the stones from the quarry walls to make them perfectly smooth. Third, at least some of the workers mining the largest stone blocks were genetically engineered to be able to work under the harsh conditions required for the job. Fourth, there was apparently some extraterrestrial involvement in overseeing the project. These extraterrestrials may have worked in a manipulative manner, either separately or secretly, from the human elite who ostensibly were controlling the project. Fifth, the Great Pyramid of Giza was only one part of a larger project that had the purpose of manipulating energy on a planetary level that had a communication purpose. It was not just a place to put a burial chamber. And finally, a separate group of extraterrestrials apparently arrived after the completion of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and they intervened with the society, essentially dispelling some destructive ideas and sharing some knowledge. This led to a collapse of the original society as a great exodus resulted when many of the masses left the area. I know all this may seem like a lot to absorb, but the data I am about to show you were collected under impeccable scientific conditions, and the data match the facts on the ground of what we see today. All I ask is that you stay with me. Look at the data yourself and then make up your own mind. I am Courtney Brown, and I am a scholar in the field of remote viewing, as it is performed using methods that were developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes, or methods that are derivative of those procedures. The military officially closed down its remote viewing program in November of 1995 when it became public, but few whom I know and trust doubt that they reopened it immediately in another, more deeply buried black project, a project which in all likelihood continues bigger and better than ever today. The military is filled with smart people, and they tend not to abandon things that work, even if they do not fully understand how they work. And as far as keeping things secret, well, that's what they do. Yet ours is not a military story, it is a civilian one that potentially surpasses anything that happened previously in or out of the military. The research that I am here to tell you about today was done at the Farsight Institute, the leading civilian, nonprofit, educational, and research hub for fully documented public scientific projects involving remote viewing as it is done using military or military-derived methodologies. Remote viewing is a mental process that allows highly trained individuals to accurately perceive what is called targets, which are places, events, and people across time and space. People who use these procedures are called remote viewers, and when they are really good, they can describe such things in great detail without being told anything in advance about what they are assigned to perceive, a condition known as working blind. Now, there are only a few highly trained remote viewers in the world today, and I have long argued that this does need to be addressed seriously in the near future. But a few highly skilled remote viewers do exist now, and they are capable of supplying perceptual data that are what some call scary good. I don't have the time today to go into much background regarding the science of remote viewing, but if you want more of that, I suggest that you go to the website for the Farsight Institute, where you can find a huge amount of material, including published, peer-reviewed scientific research. Don't let people who tell you something is impossible scare you away from learning something that is real. In late 2012, I initiated a new remote viewing project that was designed to answer the question of exactly how the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed. I wanted to know how the biggest rocks were mined and transported, and I wanted to know what the pyramid was used for. What was its original purpose? Regardless of how it was constructed, it clearly took a lot of effort to do it, and it must have had some important rationale motivating its builders. This was clearly going to be an historically important project to be undertaken at the Farsight Institute, so I enlisted the help of two gifted remote viewers who are among the best on the planet currently, Dick Allgire and Daz Smith. They are both second-generation civilian remote viewers. Dick Allgire uses a form of remote viewing known as the HRVG method for the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild that was taught to him by Glenn Wheaton, who came out of Special Forces Intelligence in the United States Army. Daz Smith uses a form of remote viewing known as CRV for controlled remote viewing. Now, that's a methodology that has long been used and taught by people such as Lynn Buchanan, who came out of the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA. Both Dick Allgire and Daz Smith have participated as remote viewers in many years of public research conducted at the Farsight Institute. They have extensive published and publicly verified track records in remote viewing under squeaky clean scientific experimental conditions. Much of their work in scientific experiments can be found on the website for the Farsight Institute and in peer-reviewed, published reports that are found in a variety of diverse venues. Indeed, scans of all of the original sessions for all Farsight projects, including the one I am discussing now, can be found on the Institute's website. Virtually all of our projects conducted at the Farsight Institute take a long time to complete. This project took approximately a year to finish. There were lots of remote viewing sessions, lots of targets for the remote viewers to examine, and there were also a large number of things that needed to be accomplished prior to initiating the remote viewing component of the project. Finally, there was a period needed to analyze and collect the data. Throughout the data collection period of the project, the viewers were kept totally blind to the nature of the project or any of the specific targets. They had no idea of what they were being assigned to remote view. They were only told via a non-leading email that there was a target and that they should remote view it and send in a session. They also did their work solo, which means that they were alone when remote viewing. Thus, there was no one present at the time they did their sessions who could have influenced the results. Well, after typically more than an hour of work for each session, the viewers each supplied between 10 and 20 pages of detailed written data, including sketches describing each target. There were also some sessions that were recorded live on video. Now, some of the video sessions are absolutely spellbindingly interesting, and I will show some of them to you shortly. Before discussing the remote viewing results, let's summarize what we already know about the Great Pyramid of Giza and why it is such an interesting mystery that seems to demand resolution. There are approximately 2.3 million blocks used in the construction of the pyramid, and the largest blocks are approximately 80 tons in weight. To leverage our efforts to obtain the maximum insight, we focused our attention on the most puzzling blocks, which are the largest, of course. It has been theorized that the Great Pyramid was constructed over a 20-year period. But if that is true, and assuming that technology was rudimentary back in those days, 800 tons of stone would need to have been moved into place each day to get a total of 5.9 million tons. That means that for 20 years, 12 blocks needed to be cut at a quarry, delivered to the construction site, and fully installed every hour of every 24-hour day. Moreover, this was not shoddy construction. The gaps between the rock surfaces are only 0.5 millimeters wide, which is 1/50th of an inch, and the base of the pyramid is perfectly flat and horizontal, varying from end to end only ½ an inch. The four sides of the square base are virtually the same length, varying only 58 millimeters. The sides are also aligned with the four cardinal compass points of north, south, east, and west, according to the true north that is aligned with the stars, not the magnetic north that wanders. And if that is not enough, if you divide the perimeter of the base by the height of the pyramid, you get the classic mathematical entity 2 pi, which historians argue was not even known back in those days. The stone used in the pyramid includes both limestone and granite, all mined from quarries. The largest blocks are granite. One of the most popular legends to appear in our contemporary scientific literature is that the Egyptians made cracks in the original rocks in the quarries and then hammered wooden wedges into those cracks. Then they soaked the wedges with water and caused the wood to expand and the rocks to crack further into usable shapes. Indeed, this may have been a traditional way of working with rocks in ancient times, but no one knows how to do that with the precision that was used for the Great Pyramid even today. So it is safe to say that the scientific authorities really do not know how the Egyptians actually cut up all those rocks, especially the really large granite stone blocks. Now that you have seen the introductory segment of the documentary, The Great Pyramid of Giza, you need to watch the full 1 hour and 43-minute presentation. You need to see all of the data with your own eyes. Now, some elements of the presentation are beyond easy description, such as what I alluded to earlier when you see recorded live what appears to be a real-time interaction between one of the remote viewers and an advanced and telepathically aware extraterrestrial, an extraterrestrial now known as the praying mantis lady, who was not particularly pleased that we poked our nose into her business of cloning humanoid-style worker slaves for use in toxic mining conditions. Just see it for yourself and make up your own mind. And then see another remote viewer carefully describe how a separate group of extraterrestrials, travelers who came from a vast distance away, arrived and disrupted the multi-pyramid construction projects that caused so much suffering and death within the human population. In part, this change was accomplished by introducing new ideas that dispelled old and binding myths in that society. Guns and advanced weapons bind worlds. Ideas change worlds. As the Farsight Planet 2014 campaign continues throughout the year, return to the website for the Farsight Institute. There we show you our latest projects, and we will give suggestions of additional things that you can do to help change this world. We need to show the leaders in this world that we have seen the evidence, and the issue of disclosure does not rest with them and their old ideas. We need to show the educational, industrial, and governmental leaders that we as a species have a new understanding of humanity's past and of the nature of the true human condition. There are many things we need to explain to you, and we cannot do them all in one video presentation. We need to have a way to connect with you, and it is an understatement to say that we do not have the financial resources to match those of the authorities and elites. Help us spread the word. The easiest way to help us do that is to go to the website for the Farsight Institute and sign up for our free newsletter. That way we can connect with you easily as the campaign continues. The website for the Farsight Institute also has a huge amount of other information about remote viewing, including fully documented projects covering everything from an ancient, technologically advanced civilization on Earth that destroyed itself, the real process that created the asteroid belt from the remains of a planet that once exploded, the nonlinear nature of time, evidence of the existence of multiple realities or timelines, and much more. You will hear many people scoff at the research we do at the Institute, but they are wrong. And simply acknowledging that remote viewing is real, transferring perceptual information instantly across time and space, is enough to demonstrate conclusively that they are wrong. It is only a matter of time before the old ideas that they cling to perish like the walls of a decaying house. Don't you get caught in that house when the walls fall down. Keep your eyes open, as well as your mind. Having an open mind is really what this is all about. Make this the year that matters, the year that the rest of the universe remembers as the time when humanity woke up. I am Courtney Brown, Director of the Farsight Institute.